this is full circle now. This is all the way back to where it all started. Was that something that was important to you that you thought about, or is this something that kind of came up as an opportunity?
I think it's more like the opportunity came about, and I just kind of took advantage of it. Like when I first left here all those years ago, after 2016 season, a lot of it was, man, like it's tough business, NFL, like you don't get to play. Because, when I was younger, I had the dream of playing for one team my whole career. It's kind of like going in the Ring of Honor, getting all the love, and then, end up leaving. And then, like, kind of hindsight 2020, it's kind of the best thing that ever happened to me because I went to, Jacksonville and got to play true DN and had a ton of success. And they kind of, like, just gave me some validation and, like, just my versatility. And but then when it, cycles back, 9 years later, and, I'm, kind of looking for a new team, not sure if I want to play football again, if I'm going to retire, and it kind of fell in place nicely. And, it's only been a couple weeks, but it's looking like it's a really good decision.
I'll take you back to the beginning, and I mean the beginning of all of this, because I'm reading something here and taking a look back at your history, and I'm reading it to you right now. This is from right before when you were drafted. Campbell's struggles continue. He capped a mediocre junior season with a poor combine. He had 16 reps on the bench, worst of any defensive lineman, ran his 40 near the 5-1 mark, and looked winded at the end of the practice session. Now, this is somebody writing this about you way back when. That doesn't sound like somebody who's going to end up being on an all-decade team and a 6-time Pro Bowler, which is what you became. What was the difference from that period of time as you matured as a player once you got to the league?
Yeah, I still went to the combine out of shape. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. That was a foolish decision. I think, like we're all human, right? And we're all, as a young kid, I had a young kid from Denver going to the University of Miami. I already kind of had a lot of, people that didn't really believe I should go to the University of Miami because, I probably couldn't keep up athletically. And so, like, I just work nonstop, trying to prove myself, and there's some other factors that go into that too, but just work as hard as I could. And then my redshirt sophomore year comes and I have a huge year, right? Unbelievable year, MVP of the team, starting to get NFL love. And I probably could have left that year and been a first-round pick. And I decided to come back to school for my redshirt junior year. And, my head starts swelling up. Everybody's telling me how good I am. I'm reading everything. Everybody's patting me on the back. And it's just all this extra love. And, it made me kind of relax a little bit. And it was a good lesson to learn. I was young enough to make the mistake, but also was mature enough to learn from it. And so from pretty much the beginning of my junior year, my redshirt junior year, through the combine, I did not work as hard as I've worked, years before that and to the, years after. But it was a humbling experience. And I had, when I ended up dropping instead of second round, my pride was very hurt. I was sad. I was happy I got drafted, but I was a little frustrated at myself, mad at myself, because I knew I didn't do enough. And so, from that moment, essentially, once I fell in the draft, I pretty much put my head down and started working at a different level, and got back to what got me in this, got me in position in the first place. And, all these years later, it's cool to still be playing football. And some people, I've kind of asked myself, like, would I have had this kind of career if I didn't make that mistake early on? If I didn't, have to go through the humbling experience during the combine? I don't really know. But I'm pretty confident I still would have had a good career, though, because I know I love ball and I know I would have dedicated myself to be good at it. But, going through that experience, I think definitely pushed me to, like, realize, like, it isn't that I'm just blessed different. It's the work, it's the work I put in that separates me.
Now you're in the NFL and you're in your first year and you're getting some playing time and you're becoming the player that you ultimately did. And, your team goes to the Super Bowl. You and I have talked about this before. When that happens to a young player, does that pretty much feel like, okay, well, this is what it's supposed to be. This is going to happen every year?
Yeah. I remember I was talking with, it was Carlos Dansby and Adrian Wilson. And they were very strong on, like, trying to communicate to us young guys, especially me, that this is not normal. Don't think that this just happens. This is not something you should get used to. And I genuinely tried to, listen to them, but I'm just a young kid. Like I can't really comprehend what they're saying. Like in my mind, we just went to the Super Bowl. Nobody thought we had a chance. Like this is way easier than I thought it was going to be. And obviously, I wish I experiencing it today would be a way different experience than it was back then. Like it's just. The dues I paid, the work that's went into it, like I would appreciate it way more today than I did back then.
People are talking about the fact now, because you are who you are, you've played as long as you have, 17 years, 39 years old, that you are a mentor. You're a teacher now. So you talk about all of the work that you put in and all of the lessons that you learned. How do you pass that along to a younger set of guys? Do they come to you? Do you go to them?
It's a little bit of both. It's kind of funny, but the past almost 10 years probably. But when we first get into camp, I usually have after the first couple of practices, I usually have a group of rookies by my locker. I'm talking to one rookie, and another rookie shows up, and a few more show up. And next I got like a group of 20 guys listening to me talk about all kinds of things. About the game of football, for a couple of days. You usually get that at the beginning of camp because I just have a different perspective. And I've always kind of appreciated that, being able to help the young guys just kind of process and grow and learn. But then when it comes to like the more specific stuff, usually any guy I see with like real good potential that I feel like can make a big difference in this league, I usually force them to hear me talk about all the things that can make their game better. And I know it can be annoying sometimes because, sometimes you don't want a second coach. You want just a teammate that you can just laugh and joke with. But, to me, reaching your full potential is way more important. So I try to push guys sometimes. But then a lot of guys will try to seek knowledge, so they come in and ask questions. And those are usually the best way because, I know you're going to hear me more, But even when, it takes time to process it, right? I remember being a rookie myself. And I had Jason Taylor. We had the same agent, so we sat down and had dinner. And he, kind of broke down how he took notes, what he looked for to give him advantages and edges in games. And in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hearing you. But it took me literally 5 or 6 years before I could really process what he was saying. But I heard him, and when it finally clicked, 5, 6, 7 years later, I was like, oh, And so, I know that from when I'm helping young guys that it might not register today, but, it will register eventually. So, I still give them the knowledge, and even if they can't apply it today, they will eventually.
You look at this opponent, you've got yourself a short week, maybe a little bit better when it's an opponent that the coaching staff knows a little bit more about in that short week. But what are you seeing from them on film?
Yeah, it's always tough with the short weeks, because you don't really get the same, time frame to study your opponent and then kind of, work through what you want to do. Everything has to kind of just be a little more trial and error when you're out there. I did play against them last year, and the coaching staff is familiar with them to a degree. And also, the head coach I was very familiar with because he was my DC for a year in Baltimore. But as far as their O-line and what they're trying to do, their game is pretty clear, right? They want to run the ball, and then everything is set up off their play action. If they can run the ball and give 5, 6, 7 yards a pop, their play action is going to be elite. It's hard to stop. But if you can shut down the run game and make them one-dimensional, I think we have a pretty good shot. And so, but Sam Darnold, what he did last week was wow, he was the best quarterback in football last week, and you knew he had talent. He's always had first round talent, but he's had moments where you weren't sure. Last year he had a big year, and then he ends up going to Seattle this year. You weren't really sure what to expect, but after 3 weeks, he's looking like he's the truth. He's legit, and that system they know how to use him. But I think in the play action game, he's been great. And so we have to try to get him into those second and longer, starting longers, win those early downs, and then just challenge receivers because he's getting the ball to them at perfect position, and they've been making some tough grabs. But I think if we can get them a little more uncomfortable, it gives us the best chance to win.
All right. So last thing. Among all of the quarterbacks you've gotten, first of all, is Sam Darnold on the list?
Yeah, Sam Darnold's on the list, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Now, I going through the list, there's one big name that's missing. That would be Peyton Manning. But I guess the question for you after all of this time is, maybe Peyton is the answer, who is the toughest to try to bring down in a sack situation in all these years you've been doing this?
Yeah, that's tough because, I mean, the game has changed, right? You know, Peyton was tough because he just got rid of the ball fast. I mean, I think I had one game where I had like 5 quarterback hits, but I couldn't get close to a sack because he just kept getting rid of the ball so fast. I mean, his O-line could not block me, but it was like, you should have 3 sacks this game, but he's just too good. And we lost, which makes it even worse. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes has been one of the most elusive guys, and I've gotten him, but then it got called back, so I don't think I have a stat that register against him. But he's tough to get because he's just so agile, and I mean, he can throw the ball from any arm angle, and just like man, like these guys got so much more athletic. But I would say the toughest sack, you know, that I've struggled with trying to get was Patrick Mahomes.
Calais, really enjoyed the talk. Thanks so much for giving us the time. Good luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate it. Take it easy.